Right. Okay. Last few coming in. Right. So we have obviously a majority of the people joining us today are our industry professionals, which is fantastic. It's always lovely to work with IID and SECAP members. So welcome and thank you. For those of you who do not know a lot about the Kitchen Specialists Association and what we do, we are the governing body for the kitchen industry in South Africa, a bit like Master Builders Association would be, but directly for the kitchen manufacturers in South Africa. And most importantly, from your side, what needs to be recognized is that our association is totally voluntary. It's not prescribed by government. So when you are looking to appoint a kitchen company as a contractor and you see the KSA logo, you know that that company is actually chosen to take responsibility and be held accountable by a third party and offer their clients free mediation, recourse and guidance via the KSA. So it actually speaks volumes for the caliber of the company you're dealing with. So please, as industry professionals, keep an eye out for the logo and give it due consideration when you are looking to make an appointment. Further to that, we're going to introduce you. I'm going to hand over to Linda from Cosentino, who's going to take you through the presentation. And the point and reason why we are doing this is that we have recently seen an influx in disputes coming through to the KSA linked to stone issues. And a lot of those, when you track down the basis or how the misunderstanding or dispute has occurred, are linked to issues that could have been resolved if we had had better understanding of the material by designers. And in particular, looking at the way the stone is sold to the customer or explained to the customer, linked to the relationship between designer and fabricator, the designer's understanding of how the material can and should be fabricated, and then also how it can and should be maintained. So we're hoping that this presentation is going to give you a better understanding and overview of the materials and give you the knowledge that you need to be able to give the information to your clientele and hopefully avoid any future disputes and misunderstandings when the product comes to installation. So Linda, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Steph. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So just to give you an overview from my kind of background, I have my Bachelor of Arts degree in interior design, and I worked as a kitchen designer for about 10 years before I started at Cosentino. And I've actually learned so much since working for Cosentino with regards to stone installation, but that also kind of spilled over from the years as a kitchen designer. So I want to go through some technical details, some pointers, and some just general info that you need to be aware of when working with any type of stone or surfacing. So let's get to it. Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat as well. We'll have a quick Q&A at the end of that. So if you have any questions, just leave them there. Okay, so just a quick introduction to who Cosentino is. Quick little video to give you an overview.
Hi there, my name is Jan, and I'm with the Cosentino Visitor Centers, and we receive thousands of guests a year from all over the globe. They're always professionals like yourselves, kitchen and bath studios, fabricators, architects and designers. The industrial site where we are measures more than 3 million square meters in size. Come and have a look. This is the industrial site of the Cosentino Group of almost 3 million square meters. It all started more than 40 years ago as a marble company when they worked exclusively with marble from the Makel quarry. The company was founded as Marmolus Cosentino in 1979 by the three brothers Cosentino. The company is in continuous growth. For Grupo Cosentino, sustainable development is an essential pillar of its strategy. Taking the protection of the environment as one of the most important commitments. Cosentino is a Spanish family company Innovative since its beginnings, producing services for creating innovative spaces for architects and designers.
Okay, and then I just want to share a quick overview of the types of products that we manufacture and distribute. So first of all, we have our sintered product, which is called Decton. It's a mixture of about 20 inorganic materials that goes through a sintering process called TSP technology, and that allows these minerals to bond with each other to form a solid slab or surface. Then we have silestone, which is our equivalent to quartz surfaces. In recent years, we have done a lot of research and invested a lot of funds into making it a more sustainable material. We've incorporated hybrid technology, where we have drastically reduced very harmful minerals like silica in our formulation, and this is quite hazardous to fabricators if the proper health and safety measurements aren't followed. So we are trying to make silestone a safer and more sustainable material for all. Then we have Sensa, which is a natural granite and quartzite that has a stain-resistant protection, so it's a little bit more resilient to your everyday stains than standard natural stone. And then we also have Scalia, which is basically a collection of over 200 colors from all around the world, which includes marble, granite, limestone, travertine, etc. So most of you are familiar with Zimbabwe black. That is one of the colors that we supply. Then just a quick disclaimer. So we do try and incorporate all the other brands in this presentation as well. We try to speak generally, but we cannot speak on behalf of other brands. And we everything that is used in this presentation is instances shown of Cosentino and is otherwise specified. It's always recommended that you defer to the specifications supplied by your stone supplier. And if you have any questions relating to our brand or other brands, you can contact any of the reps or contact people. Okay, so what are the differences? This is the main question that we usually get. So it's kind of categorized into three different surfaces. The first one is a sintered product, which goes through what we call a sintering process. It's a combination of powdered material that goes through high heat and high pressure that solidifies into a slab. It then goes through a process where it has a decorative printing on top. And then you will see what looks like a solid slab. Then what are the advantages? So this is a very nice product to use for many applications, but I'll get to in a minute. So it's non-porous, scratch and impact resistant, heat resistant, resistant to freezing and thawing, which is an ideal thing for using it as a facade in very cold temperatures like Switzerland and in very hot temperatures like Dubai. It's both for indoor and outdoor use. It's water and stain resistant, UV resistant, again, can be used outdoors, and it requires minimal maintenance. It's also available in various thicknesses, finishes, and colors. What are the disadvantages? So I don't really see this as a disadvantage, it's just different, but the printed designs and textures do not extend through the stone, which means that if you cut your slab in half, where you see the edge there, it will be a solid color and the print will only be on the top. And this is also how you identify it. Then quartz, this is a countertop, it's man-made. It's generally made out of 90% ground quartz, which is a mineral, and then with 8 to 10% resins, polymers, and pigments. This then forms into a hard granite-like surface. The appearance depends on how the quartz is ground. So coarsely ground quartz will have a flecked appearance, while finely ground quartz will have a smooth look. Some of the advantages, it's resistant to scratches.
Recording in progress.
It's resistant to impacts and commonly used acids in your kitchen. Stain resistant. full-bodied color, so which means if you cut your slab in half, the pattern and the color will go right through. And it's also available in different thicknesses, finishes, and colors. Disadvantages, and this is very important because a lot of people don't know this, it's only for interior use, and is very vulnerable to heat damage because it has resin present. So you cannot take a hot pot and put it directly onto a quartz countertop, but you can do that with a sintered product. How to identify it? Your surface color and pattern extends through the stone. Then natural stone, everybody here I think knows what that is. It's something that is quarried from the earth directly and then cut into slabs and treated and installed into whatever kind of decorative or building materials. This includes granite, marble, limestone, travertine, slate, etc. One of the advantages of this is every single slab is unique. So if you are looking for something that's very unique and you want to make a statement with that, this is definitely one of the products that are very nice for that. We use it's a wide variety of naturally made colors from pink to green to black to white, and you can also use it for indoor and outdoor. Some of the disadvantages, it requires regular maintenance. It needs to be sealed on installation as well as every 6 to 12 months after that, because it is generally porous. Some colors are more porous than others. And also you can get natural anomalies in different slabs. So one slab may be perfect and the one cut right next to that one will have a dark spot in the corner or in the middle of the slab. And then also you have inconsistent slab sizes because it's a natural product and it depends on the block that it's quarried in, size of the block. And how to identify it. So each slab is unique, and with this one as well, because it's a natural color, the surface color and pattern extends through. So just some pointers from a design point of view. Sample versus slab, it's always a nice thing to have a sample, but it's always recommended to go and view the full slabs, especially if it has any sort of movement in it, like these examples over here. A sample will only show a small piece of that slab and can sometimes be quite a problem because it looks quite busy, and when you view the slab, it's only that one little piece that looks busy, or vice versa. And it's also very, very important with natural stone because every single slab looks different, and it's advisable to go with your customers or go with your customers to the slab yard or to the warehouse to view these slabs. These customers can then choose their own slabs to make sure that they are happy with what they are getting. Also, something that's important with samples is, especially with quartz samples, because it has a resin, the color of the samples can discolor over time. And also, if you have had the same sample for a few years, the formulation of that specific product may have changed. So your sample and the actual slabs that are being produced may slightly differ. So it's always important to have a good understanding of what the full slab looks like. Then tonality, batches, and matching, also very important. These are some examples of full slabs with some movement on them. You'll see there's numbers 1 to 8 on them. This is if you would cut these specific slabs as they are into 8 tiles, and how the pattern will flow. Same slabs, but the tiles have been moved around, so your patterns do not follow on each other. It may look a little bit inconsistent. Same slab, different layout. Things to keep in mind with this when you are designing as well. Slab sizes. Not all suppliers have the same slab sizes, and you need to keep in mind the kind of layout that you have in your kitchen. Always keep the slab size in the back of your mind. Design or decorative design flow. If you have a slab with any kind of movement like veins or a concrete look, the direction of the movement is important. Like, for example, if you have an L-shaped kitchen, the vein will not, or the texture will not run in the same direction. Joins. When you are Planning your design is very important. To plan where you want to add your joints. This has a big impact on slab optimization, look and feel, as I've mentioned, as well as cost. It's also critical that when you plan where your joints are, that you keep in mind where your carcass joints or where your supports are, because joints always need support from underneath. Then batches, or as we refer to it as tonality. All slabs are produced in batches. At Cosentino, we make use of natural ingredients, which is not always the same, and it can lead to slight tonality differences should the piece be from another batch. For example, if you install a kitchen or cladding now, and in 2 years' time you want to do an add-on piece, there may be a slight difference. And the same can be said when you bake a cake. So you use the same ingredients, you follow the same recipe, you use the same oven, but a cake does not always come out exactly the same every time. Suppliers do take care to supply slabs from the same batches. And if you're unsure about any of this, it's advised to speak to the fabricator that you are working with to determine the best way forward. Just some examples of vein and texture matching. So for waterfalls, for different angles, if you are doing a full island with door cladding and waterfalls and back cladding. Texture matching for multi-application like countertop and cladding. And these last two for vein matching. This bottom right picture is actually the best example of this. So you'll see it's quite a busy vein that you have there, and it's used on countertop in an L shape with cladding as well as a build-up. Okay, so sintered products. We've spoken about this, non-porous, print doesn't go all through the design, various thicknesses, stain resistant, can be used indoors, outdoors. So different slab formats, so every single supplier has different slab formats. It's advisable to always make sure that you know what the slab sizes are, as I've mentioned. It also comes in different thicknesses, so it can be from anything from 3 millimeters up to 30 millimeters. And these are ideal for different applications. Also, you have different finishes, so you have some of them that are very high gloss, you have some of them not textured, some matte, some with a velvet soft touch. So there are quite a few options available. Just some applications. So countertops, islands, downstands, build-ups, exterior cladding for flooring, for walls, for swimming pools, and countertops, exterior countertops as well. Interior cladding, flooring, and vanity countertops. You can also do your basins out of the same material. Fireplace cladding, very important here that you cannot use the products as the interior cladding of a fireplace. It's recommended for exterior, so you cannot make a fire directly on top of this material. And then also furniture and furniture cladding, so you can use it as like in this picture, you'll see some nice cladded coffee tables, as well as cladding directly onto the doors. We have recommended thicknesses according to application. This is just an example of our recommended thicknesses, but every single supplier, again, will have different recommendations. Then the nitty-gritty. So this is the technical side of things. Most important thing for sintered products are your cabinets and substrates need to be flush, plumb, and level. If it's out of level, it's almost guaranteed that there will be a problem in future. The other thing that's very important, you need to have adequate support. So we recommend usually doing about support at 600 millimeter intervals, but it also depends on the thickness, the application, as well as the cutouts and overhangs that are on the worktops. Very important also, all corners need to be rounded. So it's not necessarily your exterior corners like the corners of your island that just needs to be beveled. But if you do a cutout of any type for a hob, for a sink, for a column, you need a minimum of 5 millimeter radius. For sinks, it's recommended 20 millimeters, and for hobs, it is 10 millimeters. So the reason for this is if you do a 90-degree corner, it makes the edge quite weak. And if you have any issues like something very heavy dropping onto your countertop or any other kind of issue, this is usually where the damage will occur, and a crack will most likely occur from that corner. Then also important with regards to joints, we've touched on this. If you do an L-shape kitchen, it's advisable that you do a two-piece with a join in the corner. Make sure that you have the right support underneath, and again, always keep your slab size in mind. Then this is just an example of minimum distances. So if you do have cutouts on your countertop, this is an example for an extractor, a hob, and something like a teppanyaki or a deep fryer. You need minimum distances to be able to support your stone, because those pieces are quite thin and fragile. So here is our recommendation for different cutouts. So 50 millimeters in between all cutouts for appliances. And again, this can differ from supplier to supplier, but this is quite general throughout the board. Then sinks, as most of you know, we have about 4 different types of sinks that we can refer to. So first one is your sit-on basin. This is mostly used in bathrooms. So this will only require a cutout for the plumbing. Then you have a top mount sink, which drops into the cutout. You have a flush mount sink, which is similar to that, but it has a little recessed part that allows the sink and the countertop to be flush with each other. And then you also have your under mount sink, which we'll touch on a little bit later in detail. It's recommended that for large and undermount sinks, to have an extra support bar underneath the sink, because it can get quite heavy. And basically, your undermount sink is only attached with adhesive, so it's recommended to have extra support. Then on the right-hand side, this is a very nice example of a sintered product that has drainage grooves running into an undermount. You'll see very clearly here that the grooves that the pattern does not go into the grooves, which brings me back to the sintered products only have a decorative printing on top. So this will require a little bit of extra reinforcement because you are making your tops a little bit thinner. The grooves can be no deeper than 25% of the thickness of the material. So for argument's sake, for 20 mil, you will need 5 millimeters deep maximum. Grooves must be polished and color matched with specific products. And please just be aware that not all brands cover this in their warranty. Make sure that you know it's covered or it is allowed before you specify this. Then with regards to hobs, so the same design principles are for flush hobs, that's the same for flush sinks. And it's also like this minimal distances if you do something like a cladding in the back, as well as a wall. Your minimum distance from the back for electric and induction is 50 millimeters, whereas gas will be 80 millimeters because of the open flame. Just some little technical details at the bottom to show how the recessed hob will work. You'll see that it has 4 millimeters depth for 12 millimeters, the cutout. You will also need a heat resistant silicone of about 2 millimeters to allow for expansion. Then with top edges, so generally with sintered products, the edges and the finishes on the edges are very minimal and straight lines. So generally it will be a mitered edge, as that first little diagram that you'll see there, or a straight edge. And all of these edges require a 3 millimeter bevel. So this helps with a higher resistance to impact and injury. Meaning you can't just cut your sintered stone without polishing and beveling it and install it. It has quite a sharp edge, so it does require that little bevel on the edges. It's also recommended at the back of your countertop, so where you would push your countertop up against the wall, to leave a 3 millimeter separation with a silicone filling, just to make sure there's some room for expansion, because buildings move, cupboards adjust, etc. And also with that on the back side, to do a 1 millimeter bevel on both edges, just to finish it off nicely and keep it from damage. Then support, we've touched on this. It all depends on what kind of countertop you need. It does show here that the minimum distance without cutouts is 1.2 meters. We recommend intervals every 60 centimeters. But we have all of this technical information available should you need it. But generally, we recommend 60 mil intervals. And if you work with thinner worktops like your 12 millimeters, always intermediary ribbing. It's also advisable, if it is at all possible, to do a full substrate underneath a thinner countertop. So this is just an example of something if you want to have a full support underneath your worktop, and you want to incorporate it into the design. This is a very nice finish. It's not necessary to do it like that, but it is an option. Also, just to mention here, if you have any cutouts like for sinks and so on, it's recommended that the substrates that you use is waterproof or water resistant, something like foam board or marine ply, just to, if you have any leaks or anything like that in future, that you don't have any damages on that substrate, because it will be quite an effort to fix that or change that out. With regards to miters or build-ups, you always need support for your countertops. This little diagram at the top here, so the X shows where the mitered edge is, so that's a little bit of a build-up. Then the red will show that you need your front, the red is your front support, and the blue is back support and on top of each one of your carcass joints. So to give consistent reinforcement. And then here you will see two little diagrams at the bottom here to just show that you need a full reinforcement in the front and the back. If you just do a half reinforcement, there's no support in the front, and this can lead to damage. And the little diagram bottom right, that's just to show that little turquoise part on the bottom of the worktop. That's reinforcement on all the carcass joints. So it does need, as you can see, the support is quite important. Then some examples of exposed edges in sintered products. So you'll see that the edges are a solid color and the print is only on the top. Some people are not too happy with something like that, then you can do a build-up, which I'll show you in the next one. But if you want that smooth, clean line, it looks great. Here you will see a build-up. You will also see on this left-hand side picture the beveling and finishing on the edges. And again, you can build up as much as you want, as long as you have the adequate support. For overhangs, this is also very important. We have all of this technical information available, but if there's different distances and supports needed for countertops without cutouts, countertops with cutouts, if the overhang is on the long side or the short side. So this will be able to assist you with any kind of needs you have regarding overhangs. Okay, quartz products. So we've touched on this as well. The color goes right through. It's only for interior use and it is very vulnerable to heat damage. We'll show you some examples a little bit later in the presentation. Formats, so generally there's quite a few different formats. This is just to show ours. Usually you have an option of a bigger slab and a smaller slab. All of them are large format though. Available thicknesses, so generally quartz products are only available in 2 and 3 centimeters, but some brands do manufacture thinner, like 12 or 13. All of our slabs are available in all of these thicknesses, as well as all of the finishes that are available in quartz is usually polished. We offer polished suede, and in some colors volcano, which is kind of a honed finish. Some applications, so interior cladding, flooring, vanity countertops, islands, furniture, downstands. Generally, the 4 main things would be countertops, cladding, flooring, and furniture. Always for interior application. Recommended thicknesses according to application. So this will also give you a good idea what kind of thicknesses you can use for which application. Again, different suppliers have different recommendations. So this part I'm going to run through. I'll stop in the important parts, but this is generally the same as for sintered products. Also very important, needs cabinets or substrates need to be flush, plumb, and level, and you need the adequate support for your countertops. Again, all radiuses, especially if you have interior corners, you can do an L shape out of 1 piece, but it is recommended to do it out of 2 pieces. If you do it out of 1 piece, you need a minimum radius of internal corner of 10 millimeters. Cutouts, very similar to sintered stone. Always remember the radius is the most important thing. No 90-degree corner cuts. Again, very similar to the sintered products, you need to keep in mind the minimum distances between cutouts for appliances like these. Here the edges are a little bit different. You have a little bit more of a wide choice when it comes to edging. Generally, the same kind of principles apply to quartz-based products and sintered. You need your 3 millimeter bevel on all edges. You need your 1 millimeter bevel against your walls or your whatever material you push your countertop up against. And you also need to leave a 3 millimeter separation filled with silicone between the wall and the actual countertop. Drainer grooves, so this is also a nice example of the difference between sintered and quartz products. Here you will see the color goes all the way through, and this has a recess as well as grooves. So here you will also need to seal the grooved parts with recommended products, and same kind of application for drop-ins for your flush sinks as well as undermounts. Again, over here, some undermount sinks need to be drilled into the countertop. This can only go up to half the countertop, otherwise it weakens the structure. Also, large and undermount sinks, they will need a support bar underneath to carry weight. Hobs, same thing as with sintered stone, you need a minimum of 50 millimeters from the back for electric and induction, and then 80 millimeters for gas. Then something that's very important, because quartz products has resin in it, it is not so resistant to heat as your sintered product. It is advisable to leave a gap between the worktop and the cabinet to allow for proper ventilation. And then this is the biggest and most important part that I know a lot of people aren't aware of. This is both recommended for sintered and quartz products, but it is mandatory for quartz products, again, because it has a resin base. It cannot handle the high amounts of heat that sintered stone can. Around your hob cutout, it is essential to put insulation tape, which is a metallic, it has a tape with a metallic finish, and this keeps the heat from getting to the countertops. And then on the right-hand side, it is important for all your heat-generating appliances like washing machines, tumble dryers, dishwashers to have an insulation layer right underneath the countertop to keep the heat from getting to the countertop. And what this usually looks like is just a very thin piece of polystyrene. It's available from your suppliers. Reinforcements, I'm not going to touch too much on this. This is just a nice bigger picture to show that your reinforcement needs to go from the cabinet support to right under the countertop. If it is halfway like the second diagram, you have no support in the front and you may have some problems going forward. Same thing with this, just a little bit of a bigger image than the previous one. So if you do build-ups, you will require support on all of your carcass joints. And generally with this, if you use a natural stone as a worktop, it is recommended to use a natural stone as the support. So they use little cuts that will you can use as the supports. If you use sintered, it's recommended to use sintered, but you can mix them up a little bit. Then overhangs, all of this information again available, but different thicknesses, different cutouts, different distances, etc. All of this determines your maximum overhang and what kind of support you need. Just some examples. So with the sintered product, you saw that the edge was a solid color and the print was on top, but with quartz, this color and the vein runs all the way through the countertop. So this is one of the things you can look at if you want to identify. This is just an example of some build-ups with quartz products. You'll see in the middle over here, there's something that we call an OG profile. So this is a few layers of quartz products kind of layered on top of each other and then polished to give this nice, very classic look. Natural stone, we've touched on this as well, very unique, needs to be resealed every 6 to 12 months, can have anomalies, and some colors are quite porous where others are less so. So here with slab formats, it can differ for each color, for each slab. It depends on the natural quarried size. Available thicknesses, so usually in 20 and 30 millimeters. 30 millimeters recommended for countertops, and 20 millimeters usually used for furniture like restaurant tables, etc., etc. Available finishes, so there are many available finishes, but generally, you have your polished, honed, aged, brushed, hammered, flamed, raw, and a few others. And then again, just with maintenance, you need to reseal every 6 to 12 months and on installation. Some applications for natural stone, so furniture, countertops, and downstands. You can also do build-ups in your natural stone, flooring, and cladding. And natural stone can both be used indoors and outdoors. Okay, then this is the important part of the presentation. So this is bespoke items, things that have become increasingly popular, and some design concerns as well. We'll show you some case studies of claims that we've had as well. So front cladding or actual doors and drawer fronts. So you can either, the picture on the left-hand side, a thin product can be cladded onto a existing substrate, something like melamine or superwood or chipboard or something like that. Just keep in mind that the thicker you go, the heavier your door gets. So if you keep it thin, you can use your standard runners and hinges, but the heavier you go, you will have to adjust that. The middle picture in the middle over here, this is where your doors and drawer fronts are the actual fronts, so not cladded onto a substrate. Here you just need to be very aware that this requires special hinges and drawer systems. So we do have suppliers available in South Africa that supply these. You must also just make sure that your fabricator has the knowledge to do this. It has very specific tools, it has very specific instructions, and it is also very important to know which thicknesses you can use for which application. Islands, something that when I was a designer, I did not know this, but I've learned in recent years, is when you do a island, like in the pictures that you see here, with downstands on the side or waterfall legs, all the weight of your countertop and your downstands must be carried by the carcasses, not the floor. Your waterfall legs also, they should not touch the floor, so they should be attached to the actual carcass, and there needs to be a 2 to 3 millimeter gap at the bottom to allow for expansion and movement. What will happen is if you have your downstand directly resting on the floor, there's a few things that can happen. The first one is your joints, where it's sealed on the corners, will pop, or you can end up with a crack or a stone that's damaged. We'll show you an example a little bit later. Also, stone is quite heavy, so if you do something like in these pictures, it's recommended to do a solid plinth, custom plinth for that, out of preferably waterproof material, like I've mentioned, foam board or marine ply, because those standard plastic adjustable legs cannot carry the weight of the heavy stone. So it's very important that you do a custom solid base for that, waterproof or water resistant material, so that if you have an issue like a washing machine or something flooding your kitchen, that you don't have a chipboard base that all your carcasses are resting on, and this now starts flaking, and then your island sags. So just some interesting examples. And also, if you want, very important, if you want pattern or vein matching, it is essential that you specify this to your fabricator. It is not usually done that way. So if that is something that you would want, you need to specify that to your fabricator, because what fabricators usually do is they try and optimize the slab. And sometimes if you need vein matching, you will require more material. Gola handles, this has become quite popular over the last 5-6 years. Because you have to cut back your carcass to allow for the handle, you'll see in that little diagram there, you tend to move back your hob, or you move back your sink, and then you move back your tap, and then the minimum distances needed for those cutouts are not the right distances anymore. So it is recommended that you make your base carcasses a little bit deeper by 25 mils, because that's all you need. And to make sure that the Gola handles have the right support for the worktops. Just also very important that if these kind of guidelines aren't followed, your warranties may become void. For cooking, we get a lot of questions about pit cooking. Very, very nice, clean look. This is approved for sintered products because it generates quite a bit of heat, and the sintered products can handle this much better than your resin-based quartz products. Also, it is recommended to do it with only 20 and 30 millimeter stone. Undercounter induction hobs, also something that's become quite popular. Very important. Some brands have tested and approved this. Other brands are still in the testing phases. Before you specify this, contact the brand that you are working with. Make sure that this has been approved, because this can also void your warranty. Undermount sinks, we've had a lot of questions about this, and this is something that you see in pretty much every single kitchen. Recommendations, we've spoken about the Gola handle, and a very important thing is if you are if your stone is being measured, always have your sink on site. It's better to do the cutout from the actual sink than from a template. So fixing, we've mentioned this as well. It's recommended to add additional support underneath your undermount. A simple brace will do, and this needs to be done by the kitchen company. Also, very important, make sure that your fabricator is experienced in installing and cutting an undermount sink. Glue, so you can't just use any old silicone glue. It has a specific adhesive that's quite strong. It needs to, you need a specific adhesive for undermounts. Waiting period, so once it's been installed, you need to let it settle for about at least 24 hours before using it. And then the responsible for installing, so your fabricator will do the cutout and the glue of the sink. The kitchen company must provide the brace support, and the plumber is responsible for final connection and testing. Also very popular to do your sinks or basins out of the same stone that you're doing with your countertop. This can be done, no problem at all, but you cannot do square corners. This will automatically void your warranty because you need rounded corners. So instead of doing the bottom right over here, instead of doing a mitered, fully mitered sink like that, if you have a look at the bottom left image, that's quite a good example. You will have to do a cutout in your countertop with radius edges, corners, and then you can do your mitered countertop that it's made out of different pieces, not one piece, and that can be glued up against the underside of your cutout. And as I've mentioned, this will 90% of fabricator suppliers, or more than that, I'm going to say 100%, this will void your warranty. Cleaning, we also get a lot of questions with regards to cleaning. So generally, a natural soap like Sunlight Liquid and a little bit of lukewarm water will sort out if you have any stains. But sometimes you do get something that's quite out of the norm. Generally, we don't have a lot of issues with this. But if you do have something that's out of the norm and you're struggling with a stain on your countertop, you can always phone your supplier and they will come out to site, see what they can do and try and rectify the situation and give you some advice on what to use. So for normal stains like this, you can just use your neutral soap, give it a little quick scrub, leave it for a few minutes, wipe it down and dry it. So if that doesn't work, you're welcome to contact your stone supplier and we will assist from there. Then some case studies. Arnu, our general manager in Joburg, he is going to go through these. This is just some real life examples of things that have gone wrong with stone because of incorrect installation, or certain things that are not recommended with the stone.
Thanks, Linda. Morning, guys. Like Linda said, just a couple of case studies which we've seen in the market, mostly pertaining to quartz and sintered porcelain surfaces. So first up here, we've got a thermal shock. So thermal shock, for guys that don't know, is when a hot object is placed on top of the surface. In this case, it's on quartz because there's no quartz surface in the market that can withstand thermal shock. So the first picture on the left, there we just indicated the crack that was running from the hop cutout at this client's house. And then on the second picture, as we were conducting the thermal shock test, you can clearly see the rounded areas that will be the pots and pans that has been placed on top of the surface. That is thermal shock. That's the cause of the crack. And for this reason, this claim has been declined. And it should be the outcome for any quartz surface in the market. Next one, Linda. Yeah, we say no space for expansion, not enough support. as Linda mentioned earlier, when doing any waterfall leg and so forth, we recommend that it does not touch the floor. We recommend having a 2-3 millimeter gap that can be filled with silicone. The piece of stone must also be directly fixed onto the carcass. In this case, as can be seen on the last picture on the right, the stone leg was touching the floor, so any movement is going to have an impact on the stone as well. And also, the stone wasn't fully bonded with the carcass, causing the crack. Thanks, Linda. Here we are speaking about cabinets not level. You can clearly see the first picture, you cannot really see the crack there, but in the second picture, you can clearly see a drop between 2 pieces of stone. That's a clear indication that the support or the carcass is not level. I mean, this is something that we do see on a regular basis, and then it becomes quite a fight between the supplier, the fabricator, and the carpenter, because who's responsible for this. So please, guys, just ensure that all your cupboards are 100% level, so that the stone gets supported all around. Thanks, Linda. And here we're just speaking again about not enough support. As Linda said earlier in the presentation, we recommend having, well, the difference in support distances will differ depending on cutouts, if there's cutouts on the surfaces or not. Here you can see the stock was at 1300 by about 850, but that wasn't a major issue here. Underneath this entire stone surface or counter, there was no support through the middle. So on top of this, the client ended up putting a very heavy pizza oven. So you've got all that weight pushing down on the stone. There's no support underneath, and that was a main reason for the crack. Thanks, Linda.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly from my side, 2 more important things, just general information that I think is quite important in the industry. First of all, warranty. So every brand has a warranty, and most of them you can register online within an allocated time. If your warranty is not registered during this time, it will not automatically be valid. So you need to go through the process or assist your customer to go through the process of registering their warranty. Make sure what your warranty covers. Design and fabrication errors are generally not included most of the times. Usually it covers product faults. There's a difference between a transferable and a non-transferable warranty. A non-transferable warranty means that if during the time, say now your warranty is valid for 15 years, if you install for a customer and they then sell their house, the warranty does not transfer to the new owner, whereas a transferable warranty is if your warranty is, say, 25 years and the house changes ownership multiple times, this warranty transfers to each new owner. And then very important, be sure to know how long a lifetime warranty is. There's a lot of suppliers that claim they have a lifetime warranty, which is generally for a kitchen, a lifetime is about 25 years. It's now a bit shorter in recent years, but a lifetime warranty can be anything from 5 years to 25 years or more. So each brand differs. Just make sure and don't just assume that lifetime means forever. So very important, activate your warranties. Then with fabricators, always try and make use of an accredited or recommended fabricator for certain brands. They have received training on working with various materials and they have the correct tools. Also very important, different surfaces require different tools, machinery, and cutting methods. So for argument's sake, your sintered product will not need the same, will need different machinery and tooling than what it will need to cut quartz or what it will need to cut natural stone. And make sure that your fabricator is equipped to work with the surfaces you are specifying. When designing something you are unfamiliar with, that's custom, a little bit of out of the norm, that's a little bit wild, it's always advisable to meet with your fabricator to discuss these points. Speaking from experience, it will save you a lot of unnecessary plan making before, during, and after installation. Just that as an example, if you have an island with a massive cantilever on the one side and you don't want any support legs underneath, you will have to involve an engineer, you will have to involve your fabricator so that you can try and make that happen without having any visible support underneath. Also, when you're looking at your decoration profile or your edge of your stone, please consult with your fabricator to ensure the material is suitable and the fabricator is capable. Okay, that's it from my side. If you have any questions, we can do that.
Thanks, Linda. So guys, before we get to you popping your questions into the chat, just a few things that from the KSA side we'd like to reiterate with you. Firstly, how important your relationship is as a designer with your fabricator, and how important it is for you to ensure you're working with a reputable and qualified fabricator, particularly when you're working with a high-end product, a sintered surface like Decton. While you might have very, very skilled small one-man bands working out of a garage with their saw and their hose pipe, it is a risk, and we encourage you to go to well-established and registered fabricators who have the correct tooling equipment. Also, we as the KSA actively encourage our registered fabricators that if they go to site and they find that the carcasses are not level, to walk away and refuse to install. Now, while this might be irritating for you, if they don't do this, they run the risk of being held accountable for any of the breakages, etc. So do not be upset with your fabricator if he refuses to install because your carcasses are not installed level. This is the designer and kitchen company's responsibility. Also, having a good knowledge, working closely with your fabricator and having knowledge of the stone, the materials and how it works is vital. From the Consumer Protection Act's perspective, you are the industry professional and key contact person for your customer. And if you give them ill advice when it comes to their stone, you will be held responsible in their eyes. So by making sure your customer actually does have interaction with your fabricator and gets their advice directly from them, that does alleviate you of that responsibility. Then lastly, when it comes to KSA registered fabricators, so that you as industry professionals know, the KSA does have a best practice when it comes to stone fabrication and installation. This has been endorsed by all the KSA registered stone suppliers in South Africa, so the likes of Cosentino, ISS, Neolith, etc. And it's also endorsed by the Marble Institute of America. So if there was a stone-related dispute, we would hold our fabricators to that document, and it is downloadable from the KSA website. Right, so if there are any questions, you're welcome to pop them into the chat. And alternatively, you can also pop in your name, company name, and registration number to get your certificate and CPT points. Not seeing any questions yet.
If you do have any questions at a later stage, I have left our email on the screen, and you are also welcome to contact Stephanie should you have any questions regarding this presentation. We will be sharing this with you next week.